About 1.5 million people were arrested in a given year for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs in 2019. That's according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That means that 1 out of every 121 licensed drivers were arrested for drunk driving. What these statistics show is that drunk driving is a serious offense. Unfortunately, repeat offenders pose the greatest risk, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all drunk driving related arrests. We are joined by Larry Forman, the owner of Forman and Associates, who wishes that he didn't have to defend people in these predicaments, but someone has to do it. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you, Brett. That's right. Someone has to do it.
And
you're absolutely right.
So there's a lot of things that people might not know at the time because it's a tough time for them. They're in a kind of a bad predicament, as we just said, but there are some steps that they could do that might help them in the long run.
Sure, absolutely. And a lot of clients call me, especially because they're feeling the pain, they're feeling the weight of this offense that's bearing down on them. They want to talk to someone who knows the process, who knows what to do, how to do it. And you believe it or not, 90% of the work initially is the simple calming down of the client, letting them know, look, you're in good hands, I got you, and we can move forward.
And oftentimes, though, when they call you, it might be too late when they're out dealing with the police. But you say that they shouldn't talk to police. Why is that?
Absolutely. The police are not your friend. The police are not there to help you. The police are only there to gather data, gather evidence, and the more you incriminate yourself, the better it is going to be for the police. Now, it is normal human nature, and we're all raised this way since we're kids. We think that we can talk our ways out of situations. You know, your parent may scold you for doing something you shouldn't have done. It is normal human nature. It's a normal human reaction to try and explain yourself to the police officer, because individuals see police officers as kind of like a parental figure, only they belong to the government. They're not really their parental unit. But the issue is that all the information that you're volunteering for this police officer, he later brings back to the county attorney or the Commonwealth attorney if the charges are more serious, and now the county attorney or the Commonwealth attorney has ammunition to use against you in order to convict you in a court of law.
Yeah. So, and in that instance as well, you might be asked to do a sobriety test, a breathalyzer, etc., and you say you should also refuse that. Why should you refuse that? And also, what happens if you do refuse that?
Absolutely, Brett. Just as I have said in my commercial, you always refuse everything. Refuse the talking to the police, you refuse the breath test at the scene, you refuse the field sobriety tests, and you refuse the breath test at the station. There are absolutely no legal consequences for not talking to the police, not doing the field sobriety tests, and not doing the preliminary breath test, or the PBT as it is known, on the scene. However, there are consequences for refusing either the breathalyzer at the station or the blood test at the station. Those do carry a license suspension, and in Kentucky, it is a mandatory suspension of 120 days on a first offense, 18 months on a second, 36 months on a third, and 60 months on a fourth offense. However, the attorney, such as myself, once retained, we can get the individual something called an ignition interlock device, something people like to call a blow and go. And you can drive as long as you have that device in the car and you're authorized to drive vehicles with that device installed, even though you are technically suspended. You have a special license.
Are there any instances, though, where the individual should submit to the sobriety test or breathalyzer?
Sobriety test, absolutely not. There is no circumstance in the universe where I could conceive of where an individual should submit to the field sobriety test. However, if you are a CDL license holder or a pilot, a commercial or non-commercial pilot, the FAA and the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, carry very severe penalties for individuals who refuse the breathalyzer test at the station, not the one on the scene. So those are the two exceptions. If you are under the FAA, the Federal Aviation Association, or the FMCSA carrying a commercial driver's license, those are the only two exceptions where the individual should submit, because the penalties for refusing, even though you may be operating a non-commercial motor vehicle and not in an airplane, you're operating your own personal vehicle, you are still subject to some very serious consequences.
So for people that want to get in touch with you, what do they have to do to to get more information?
They can call the office line, which is 1-844-4-DUI-GUI, or 502-931-6788. I also have a couple of websites, www.larryformanlaw.com and www.kylawclinic.com.
All right, he's the DUI guy. Thank you, Larry Forman, for joining us.
Thank you, Brett, for having me.